I am going to, present continuous. This is the format that you can use for future simple tense. Subject will have been plus verb in the ing form. Why verb in the ing form? Obviously you have continuous, hence verb in the ing form. Future action that will be completed, but when the action is ongoing, you're talking about that time reference. When he finally quit his job, that is the finished action. They realized that he had been working for 12 years. Hello and a very warm welcome to your prep school English classes. I'm your English teacher, Kshama. In this session of yours today, we are going to deal with the second part of grammar portions of your 11th standard CBSE syllabus. Now, in the first portion, we had dealt with tenses. However, we are going to continue it in this session and also learn about a new topic, that is clauses. You'll only be introduced to the topic clauses. What are the basics that are the concepts under clauses, what are the types of it, and the examples. Let's not waste any time and dive right in to understand the next part of tenses as well as clauses. So we had dealt with present simple tense, present continuous, present perfect continuous, past simple, past continuous. Moving forward, we have to learn about the next type, which is past perfect. Now in this one, we are sure that we are talking about something that has already happened, an action that has already happened. But what does past perfect mean? How is one supposed to identify it? Okay. So now this one is used to denote which one of the past events happened first. In these kind of tenses, what is the cue that you can make use of is that there will be two events that have already happened in the past. Okay. And one of them you have to denote which one happened first. And to do that, you use past perfect. Now, what does that mean, ma'am? Let's understand. When we go to the theater, the movie started. Past simple. There's nothing complicated about it. Okay. When we got to the theater, the movie started. Now, how is past simple different from past perfect is what we have to know. When we got to the theater, the movie had started. Now, think of this imagery. When we reached there, when we got to the theater over here, after that, the movie started. After that, only the movie started. So this happened first. But over here, when we got to the theater, the movie had already started. The movie is here. Okay? The showcasing of the movie has already started before you reach. So that is the slightest difference between past simple and past perfect. You have to denote which one exactly happened first. Now to do that, when there are two past actions, two or more past actions, you use past perfect. Some other sentences, I was sick because I had eaten too much the previous night. Now in this format, subject plus had, denoting that it is the past tense that we are talking about. Verb in the past participle form tells you that it is past perfect. Now which one of the actions happened first? Since I had eaten too much or unhealthy the previous night, that has happened first. And whatever that has happened first will be in this had, along with this had format. Subject, I had eaten too much. And hence, because of that, there's another past thing that has happened. I was sick. Past simple. Next, look at the second one and you also see eaten. Past participle. Right? Eat, ate, eaten. Then, the boy looked very familiar. He looked very familiar. Okay. Because of what? Something else has happened before that. Hence, you don't see had over here. That is why it is very important to read the sentence before and after. If ever a passage is given to you and you have to fill in the blanks in the passage, the sentence before and after could be of very much importance. And even one sentence and the words in it are very important for you to tell which time reference are we talking about, which comes first. Those will help you fill in much easier. Okay. So I had seen her somewhere. I, subject, had seen her somewhere. So which is the first action? This one is the first one. This one is the first one. Since I had eaten, I was sick. Sickness, follows later on. Then I had seen her somewhere, and then only because of that, there is familiarity. Correct? Moving forward to the third example, Raghavi rushed to her coordinator's office, but she had gone home early. Now the coordinator has gone home early. That's the first action over here. And the second event is that then later on, Raghavi rushed to the coordinator's office, but the coordinator had gone home early. So past perfect, it is clear, it's subject plus had and verb in the past participle form. Moving forward to the 8th one, past perfect continuous tense. Now there is an action that is completed in the past. However, it was, when you say there's an action completed in the past, it is past perfect. When there was an action in the past, it was in the continuous form. It was still happening now that you are talking about it in the time reference, in the present or so. The action that you're talking about was still happening. How do you know continuous? There is not just had, past perfect Q had, but along with that, whenever there is continuous, you know that it is ing, right? So to talk about continuous action in the past, before a finished action, of course, there is one finished action because, of course, had is there, right? Past perfect is there. And then there is another continuous action. It's a combination of one finished action and one continuous action. I felt really tired because I had been driving all day. There is a continuous action. Can you know, I drove all day? No. Here, driving, ing is there. Hence, it helps you to add had been. Thinking of the questions that you might get. I dash drove all day, right? This one has ing over here. Hence, subject plus had been plus verb in the ing form. There is one finished action. What is the finished action? What has happened? Really tired. Tiredness is one finished thing. Because of what? There was a continuous action that led to this one. What is it? I had been driving all day. Then, she had been waiting for 2 hours when the doctor finally arrived. Which one is the finished action? The doctor arrived. That's the finished perfect over here. But what is the continuous thing? Before that, she was waiting, had been waiting. So subject, she had been, verb in the ing form. Then the ground was wet, one half of it, because it had been raining. There was continuous action. The continuous action in between these two is there was continuous rain. And then because of that, what is the effect of it? The ground was wet. When he finally quit his job, that is the finished action, they realized that he had been working for 12 years. They realized that he had been working. His work was a continuous thing over there. So there is form, subject, had been, and verb in the ing form. So once when you figure out, it becomes a little easier when there is perfect. The word perfect in the tense, you know that you have to use either have or had. And when it is past, it is clear that you have to use had, the action, something that has been completed already. And when there is continuous, the cue is that you have to use ing. So such tricks, you can keep yourself to make it a little easier. Okay. Moving forward to the next one, which is future simple tense. Moving to the future tense, we have finished with the past tense and present tense. Moving forward to future tense. And in that one, the first one is future simple tense. Now in future simple tense, you are a little confused with whether to use going to, will, or present continuous. What is that you have to use, right? Now I'm going to clarify to you what you can use in which purpose, okay? For what purpose. Now I'm going to clarify what you have to use, and based on the purpose, how does it matter if you're using going to, if you're using will, how does it really matter? It does matter, let's understand. So there are three things: going to, present continuous, you can use it in that form. So there are purposes based on which you can use these things. Now if in a sentence, future, simple future tense, if you were to use going to, then the purpose of it is that you have plans and intentions, but the plan is you're not really sure about it. When you're using I am going to take class, you don't know at what point of time, when you're going to take, if the students are going to be there or not. It's not scheduled, okay? So I am going to take class. I am going to come. Okay, I am going to come to your party. I am going to visit you. Not sure when. The next one, present continuous, more than just plans or fixed arrangements. It's just more than plans or fixed arrangements. We'll find some more examples. So when you use I am, we are not using going to. When you're sure, when you have plans, this is at what time your class is scheduled. I am going to, present continuous. This is the format that you can use for future simple tense. What are you going to say? I am going to take class at 5 o'clock. My time is scheduled. There's lot more than just planning and or intending to take class, isn't it? Hence, it is more than just plans or fixed arrangements. Now, it is your duty to read the sentence or read the paragraph and understand whether it is an intention that is being, said there or being conveyed, or whether it is the fixed arrangement that they are talking about. I am going to visit you at 5 o'clock, or I am going to come to your house at so and so time in the future, right? Or if I'm saying going to, you're not really sure about your plan. Now, moving forward, when do you use will, right? When do you use will? In order to express a sudden decision, an instant decision, promise or offers, you use will. Let's look at the examples. Let's look at the format. Okay. Now, this one is for going to. This one is, you have the format over here. And the last one is will. All right. Now, for this one, this is the format. When you're using going to, you write subject, am, is, are, I am, she is going to come, probably, and verb in the basic form, without any alterations, correct? Next, if you're going to use present continuous form, where you're sure about your plans, what are you going to use? Subject, I am going to, when you've said already going to, this is done. All right, after saying verb in the base form, moving forward to present continuous. If you're using present continuous, sure about your plans, then you're going to say subject, I am coming. I am coming at 5 o'clock to the party. Verb in the ing form, okay? Then if you're using will, subject, will, and verb in the base form. I will help you, okay? I will call you. I have, offers or sudden decisions that I have made. I will help you out now, okay? Then let's look at a couple of examples. We are going to buy a car. There is subject, am, is, are, appropriate to the subject. Followed by that, going to buy a car. When, which time period, in which month of the year, we don't know. We are not really sure. But we do have the plan. We are intending to buy a car. Okay? I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to exercise regularly. Start exercise. I'm going to exercise regularly. Alright? If only the time reference was unclear, we would have told, we are going to Canada. That is where the sentence would stop. However, I am sure, although I am talking about future reference, something that is going to happen in the future, I am sure of when we are going. Hence, I'm not going to use going to. I can definitely use what? The present continuous form and say, we are, for sure, we are flying to Canada next week. Done and dusted. Tilak is giving his presentation on 25th. 25th, it is fixed. I will think about it. Somebody asked you something, an instant decision, you will think about it right now. I will help you. You saw that somebody is in need of help instantly. You're offering help. You're offering them if you can help them out, right? Promises and offers. Then I will have a plate of idli. Sudden decisions been made. Can't have it now though. Okay, can you lend me 500 rupees? I will pay you back next week. I will pay you. This is a promise that is being made. Moving forward to the will. When do you use will? You can also use will. There's another additional purpose where you can use will when you're making predictions. Predictions based on past knowledge or personal experience. Now, both of them, going to and will, you can use in order to make predictions. But what is the difference? In this one, will, based on the past experience, you have to make predictions. Referring to the past experience, you have to make predictions, such as, you should read Khalil Gibran's poems. I am sure you will love them. It is a prediction that you will love them because my past experience is that I have already read Khalil Gibran. I was able to appreciate Khalil Gibran, hence you will also do the same. Okay, predicting that you will also do the same. Then, predictions based on present events. When you're trying to make a prediction, trying to make a sentence where you're predicting, and how to decide whether you're going to use will or going to. Going to, if you're using, then the prediction should be based on your current, present experience and not the past experience. How are you going to write that? My mom is going to be really inspired when she sees my grades, or she's going to be really happy when she sees my current, at the moment, whatever grades that I got, or today. The kid actually has the report card in her or his hand. My mom is going to be really happy, is going to be. Here, that is the difference. All right. Moving forward to future continuous tense. Now that you have understood future simple tense, it is very simple to understand simple future tense. It is very important to understand and easier to understand future continuous tense. Now, how do we do that? There's a form which includes subject plus will be plus verb in the ing form. When you see will be, then you get to know, and along with verb in the ing form, you get to know that we are talking about future tense along with the continuous format, right? Ongoing actions in the future. I will be attending his PTM at 10:30 tomorrow. Somewhere in the time reference that you're giving in the future, at this point of time, I will be doing this. Don't know at what time this would end, what time, I only know that it is going to start at this particular time. So I will be doing this. Don't know till what time. Hence, I will be attending, verb in the ing form. I will be staying at the Taj Hotel in Bombay. In Bombay, I will be staying or I am staying is also correct. But if you're specifically talking about future continuous tense, then I am staying. Verb in the ing form, subject will be. When you see will be, you get to know that it is future continuous tense. However, if you ask, is this wrong? When you say, I have written, ma'am, I am staying, it comes in a fill in the blanks or like a passage based question. Then if you have written, I am staying at the Taj Hotel in Bombay, present continuous, that is also not wrong. Then if you have written, I am going to stay, planning on staying, I'm going to stay at the Taj Hotel in Bombay, all three forms are correct. Okay? All forms are correct. Moving forward to future perfect tense. So although this particular one, future perfect tense, it is going to happen in the future, you predict it to be completed by this particular time. Hence, it will be completed in the future and you're talking about it now. How do you talk about it? Completed actions in the future. What is the form then? Subject will have verb in the past participle. It's highly not very common that you use future perfect tense or future perfect continuous tense in a probably day-to-day conversation or hardly in your written communication as well. However, it is good to know. Okay. So what is the format? Subject will have and verb in the past participle form. How is it that by June, Mukta will have saved 10,000 rupees. So probably Mukta has started saving somewhere in the January, like 2,000 per month. And then you are speaking about it now in January. By June, somewhere in the future, Mukta will have saved. If she starts by now, 2,000 per month, she would have saved. By June, Mukta will have saved, will have plus verb in the past participle form, saved 10,000 rupees. And then there is by 6 p.m. future, we, subject, will have painted the house. Probably you started in the morning and in the morning you're talking about it. We will have finished by evening or finished painting the house by evening. So that is future perfect tense. Now we are only left with the final one, future perfect continuous tense. Ongoing action in the future with duration. What is it that is an addition over here is that you're also going to talk about the duration. How? Subject will have been plus verb in the ing form. Why verb in the ing form? Obviously, you have continuous, hence verb in the ing form. Future action that will be completed, but when the action is ongoing, you're talking about that time reference. By June, Mukta will have been saving for 6 months. Now over here, what was important? The money was important. Saved 10,000 rupees, painted the house was important. However, in the next one, which is future perfect continuous tense, what is more important? The duration is more important. Will have been saving for 6 months. Okay? And the next one, by 6 p.m., we will have been painting for 10 hours. So it is subject plus will have been plus verb in the ing form. That is going to be future perfect continuous tense. So there we finish all 12 of our tenses. And moving forward to the next topic, which is clauses. I'm sure clauses are not topics that you have been introduced to for the very first time. I'm sure some glimmer of it you have seen it when you were in probably 9th or 10th standard. But we'll start it from the scratch and understand what clauses are. Clauses are basically consists of a subject and a verb and is the smallest grammatical unit that expresses a thought. Well, that was not really simple. It's basically a part of grammar, okay? The smallest component of grammar, which consists of a subject and a verb, and it completely makes sense. It is a thought in itself. Okay, you understood that one? So it can be categorized into different types. Now it's just a sentence, and part of a sentence, smallest part of the sentence, smallest part of the grammatical unit that expresses a thought, and it consists of subject and a verb. Now let's see the types of it, which is main clause, also known as the independent clause. Now this particular smallest grammar component that we are talking about, that has a subject and that also has a verb, correct? Subject meaning the doer of the action and verb meaning the action that we are talking about, action words. This can stand alone. The first type of it, the main clause that we are talking about, it can stand alone, meaning what? It can make sense independently without the help of any other component of a sentence or any other word. It can make sense. For example, they dance under the rain. They dance. They are the subject. Now I hope with the examples you'll get to know. They dance is the verb. They dance under the rain. It makes sense. It can stand independently. That is an independent or main clause. I hope that's clear. Let's not confuse you much. I love eating brownies. This is the simple sentence. To give you a simple sentence, I love eating. Okay, I love eating. Doesn't have to have any other things that are to be attached to it in order to make much more sense. This makes sense. They dance. I love eating. Makes sense, right? Then to look at a compound sentence or a complex sentence, we have looked at a simple sentence. Let's look at a complex sentence, which is a combination of sentences. You do know that there are kinds of sentences, isn't it? Simple, complex, and compound. To look at a complex sentence, the sky was clear. This makes sense on its own. The sky was clear. This is the subject. It's clear. Moving forward, and we could see our way. We could see our way. Even if you say we could see our way, that in itself is a thought that completely makes sense. We could see. Moving forward, what is the second kind of it? What is the second kind of a clause? The second kind of a clause is obviously subordinate clause or dependent clause. Now this particular, chunk of sentence or clause cannot stand on its own or cannot make sense on its own. What does that mean? Cannot stand on its own. If you write, it'll just fall off. No, that's lame, isn't it? Now, dependent clause can't make sense alone without independent clause. They are dependent on what? They are dependent on independent clause. In order to make sense, they need the first kind. They need help. Because I couldn't take the class today. Now, this one, you know that it is a dependent clause because you don't know what happened later on. It just doesn't make sense. It is incomplete. What will happen later on? Because I couldn't take class today, what happened because of that? It is an example for dependent clause. Now, what's the second one? When we came to the class, okay, that's an incomplete, unfinished sentence. It obviously makes sense, isn't it? What happened when we came to the class? It stopped. The sentence stops. So, these chunks or clauses do not make sense on their own. They are incomplete. Hence, they are dependent on independent clauses. Now, after that, if he does not submit his project today, there is this word that has been used. If, when, because, all of these tell you that it is an example for dependent clause. Okay? Now, because if he does not submit the project today, what is going to happen? It's incomplete. Hence, it is dependent on independent clauses. I hope this is clear. Dependent clause and independent clause. Moving forward, there are three types. Now, in the dependent clause or the subordinate clause, also called as the subordinate clause, there are three types. What are the three types? There is noun clause, the first one, adjective clause, and adverbial clause. Now, based on the role that they play in a sentence, they have been divided into three types. Now, if a dependent clause, we are not talking about independent clause, if a dependent clause acts as a noun or takes the role of a noun in a sentence, then it is called as noun clause. That does the work of a noun or in itself is a noun. I remember what you said yesterday. I remember. Okay. What you said yesterday. Here, the underlined portion is the independent clause. What is the underlined one? I'll underline it for you. This one. I remember. I remember. Okay. Now what, which doesn't have to be a case. I remember in itself is an independent clause. I remember. If you ask somebody, do you remember it? Yes, I remember. Okay. That is an independent clause. But if you just write, okay, say for instance, my sentence was only what you said yesterday. What did I say yesterday? It is incomplete, isn't it? Hence, this part over here is dependent clause. Now, when you have put it together, it is acting as the noun. What you said yesterday acts as a noun over here. Hence, it is called as a noun clause. Alright? That can stand alone. This one, I remember, can stand alone. The italicized words over here, what you said yesterday, serves as a dependent noun clause. I hope that's clear. Next, moving forward to the next kind, or let's just elaborate into it much. The noun clause is acting as the object of the sentence. If you go back, I remember. There's a person, subject that remembers. Okay, subject is over. What is the verb is also over. This one over here, noun clause is acting as the object. It can also happen. Alright. Next, moving forward. In the noun clause, you said is a subject. What you said is a subject. And what you said plus a verb. If you go back, you said over here, this one. This particular one. What you said over here is a verb and a subject, but this whole thing over here is an object. Noun clause is acting as an object. Moving forward, this creates the clause a subject plus a verb. However, what you said yesterday cannot stand alone. Exactly, this is what I was trying to tell you. What you said yesterday, it cannot stand alone. It is dependent clause and therefore must be paired with an independent clause. So let's go through it again. The noun clause is acting as the object of the sentence. In the noun clause, you said. You said is both what? It is a subject plus a verb. Alright? This creates the clause a subject plus verb. Again, however, what you said cannot stand alone, hence it is dependent. All you need to remember, you have to identify which one is dependent, which one is independent. So that from the dependent ones, when you have to identify, is it a noun clause, is it an adverbial clause, is it an adjective clause, based on the work that they are doing, you'll get to know which type of the clause is being used. Okay? I thought, I know it is ringing in your head now, I thought is the independent clause. What she wrote, what she wore was so chic. Okay? It was chic. Now, what she wore was so chic, what? What about it? Who is talking about it? What she wore was chic. We don't know what she wore. We don't have any idea about it, right? Hence, we are saying what she wore is the noun clause over here, and this is the independent clause. Then, whomever you confide in is a person you can trust. So, whomever you are trusting over here, whomever you confide in, we don't know. Whomever you confide, we don't know who we are talking about, right? A person you can trust. Over here, you can say this. This should be a person you can trust. And then if you're using whether, if, that to describe, to say something, we don't know whether he is going to come. We don't know if you can attend. When such things, when such clauses are used, you should know that it is an example for noun clause. Okay? So this one is also over. Whomever you confide in, whether, if, that also are generally used. These are the words that are usually used in the noun clause. Okay? Followed by that, let's move on to the second type, which is adjective clause, or also called as the relative clause. I'm sure, I think you had relative clause or relative pronouns when you were in 10th grade. But this one over here, self-explanatory, acts as an adjective, takes the place of an adjective that is describing the noun. The man whom you saw at the store committed a robbery. Okay, so who are we describing over here? He who committed whom you saw yesterday at the store. That is an example for adjective clause. Which man? What did the man do? This is the person. How are we going to describe him as? Whom you saw at the store committed a robbery. You saw him yesterday. That's how we are describing him. The adjective clause describes the boy. Correct? How is it describing? Whom you saw at the store yesterday has committed a robbery. Two details. You had seen him. He has committed robbery. So this is serious, my friend. It contains a subject and a verb. You saw. Alright? Like all the other clauses, it contains a subject and a verb. So now does this one contain a subject and a verb? There's a subject and a verb. That's how you know that it is a clause. However, it cannot stand alone as a complete thought. Whom you saw? Whom did you saw? What happened about it? What about it? There was this man, the man that you saw at the store committed robbery. Who you saw at the robbery is not a complete statement. Who you saw at the robbery or who you saw at the store is not a complete statement. Hence, it has to be backed by the man that you saw at the store. Alright? The store that the boy robbed is on the corner. What are we describing now? The store. That is important. This particular store is what we are describing. So now you'll get to know what is the difference between noun clause, adjective clause, isn't it? So we are describing the store over here that the boy robbed is on the corner. That is the word that tells you it is clauses that we are talking about. And in the earlier one also, I think you had what, whomever. When such words are used, those are examples of clauses. Whether, if, that, all of these are examples. You'll be in the exercise asked to probably fill in the appropriate clauses that make sense. I thought this would be having a space, this would have a space, and you'll have to fill in the appropriate clause, or you'll have to identify the appropriate kind of clause it is. Which is the clause over here, which is the part of the sentence that is a clause, and what type of clause it is. Then the corner of the street where my family lives is surrounded by investigators. Now, what are we describing? The corner of the street. And how are we describing? Where my family lives. That is where my family lives. I am describing it. Is surrounded by investigators. So from here, this is a clause. Where my family lives, it is being investigated. It is being searched for now. So we are describing corner of the street, the store, those two things with the help of the adjective or relative clause. Moving forward, these are the pronouns and adverbs you usually see in the adjective or relative clause. An adjective clause will always begin with one of the following words. Chances are that the adjective clause usually begins with these words: that you saw, where we were, who you met, whom you were talking about, which place we wanted to go to, when I said so, all of these things, where, why. Usually these are the words through which, with the help of which adjective clause begins. That's one of the cues which you can make use of. Then the final one is adverbial clause. Now these are the things that you have to keep in mind: the relative pronouns or relative adverbs. Pronouns, you know, in the place of nouns you use pronouns, or otherwise to describe verbs you use adverbs. I didn't want to miss out on that one. Moving forward to adverbial clauses. Now over here in the types of dependent clause that acts as an adverb. Clear? You will continue driving north until you see a stop sign. You will continue driving north until you see a stop sign. There needs to be a stop sign for us to stop driving. The adverbial clause is acting as an adverb in this sentence. Okay, let's understand how. The adverbial clause modifies how you will drive. You will drive is fine. Now, what is the adverbial clause doing over here? You will continue driving north until you see a stop sign. Now, if over here, until you see a stop sign, what will you do? You will continue driving north. Then, the adverbial clause contains the subject and a verb. You will continue. Over here, if you see, you will continue. You, a subject, will continue. Continue is a verb. Then, however, it cannot stand alone. You will continue. If I say you will continue, does that make sense? Can that stand dependently? Continue to do what? Continue with what? Is it my course? What are we talking about? Then you will get to know driving north until you see a stop sign. So this over here, you will continue, is dependent clause, dependent adverbial clause, and driving north until you see a stop sign, that is independent. Right? You have to drive until you see a stop sign in the north. So to go through this again, the adverbial clause modifies how you will drive. By doing what? The adverb, of course, it consists of a subject and a verb. However, you will continue. You as a subject, continue is the action. However, it cannot stand alone as a complete thought, complete meaningful thought. Until you see a stop sign is not a complete statement. If you, both of them over here are not complete statements as of now. You will continue driving north until you see a stop sign. After the movie ended, what happened? Now this you clearly know that it is a dependent clause because it just doesn't make sense. If I had only kept this statement, after the movie ended, what happened after the movie ended? It can't stand alone. We ate ice cream. Is this a dependent clause or an independent clause? It is an independent clause. We ate ice cream doesn't have anything to do with anything else. It just makes sense. But over here, after, such words tell you that there is a clause that has been used and you have to identify whether it is an independent clause or a dependent clause or what kind of a clause is it. So after the movie ended, we ate ice cream. Beth visits her grandfather whenever she is in town. Now Beth visits her grandfather, that is for sure. Can you say whenever she is in town? Is it a dependent clause or an independent clause? It is a dependent clause. Whenever she is in town, we don't know what is going to happen. It's not a complete statement. Now that is being described. Her visit is being described over here. That is how you know her visit is the action that is being described over here. It's more sort of the purpose of it is being changed, right? Adverb. That is when you know it is an adverbial clause. Whenever she is in town, what does she do? She visits her grandfather. So these are the three types: adverbial clause, then there is noun clause and adjective clause. So those are the three types. You got to know what clause are. There are two types. There is a main clause or a independent clause, that which is not dependent on anything in order to make sense, in order to be a complete thought. And the second one is a dependent clause, which needs the help of the independent clause to just make sense. After the movie ended, what happened? After the class ended, I met the students. I met the students is main clause or the independent clause. But if I put it just as after the class ended and I stopped talking, do I make sense? No. So that's about your main clause and subordinate or dependent clause. And dependent clause has three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. Each of them act as whatever that their name represents as. Noun clause in itself or acts as a noun or in a sentence, or adverbial acts as an adverb, adjective acts as an adjective, right? So that is how you understand clauses and the basic types of it. We'll deal with the exercises in your live classes and I'll meet you all in the live. Thank you.